What's good, family? Shout out to everyone who joined us for our very first episode where we cooked juicy Wagyu foie gras beef burgers with the beef provided by Vermont Wagyu. With the rest of our leftover meat, today we're making kibbeh. Kibbeh is a minced meat and wheat fritter. Heavily spiced, originated out the Middle East. First time I ever tasted or heard of kibbeh was in Port-au-Prince, Haiti. Since the mid-1800s, Haiti has been a low-key haven for immigrants out of the Middle East. In Haiti, they have Palestinian Haitians, Syrian Haitians, Lebanese Haitians. Today, kibbeh is as synonymous in Haiti as fried plantains or even pikliz. For today's episode, the point of this is to have something quick, delicious, easy snack. I'm just using my own techniques and the ingredients that I have in my kitchen. So if you're interested in finding a new snack for your repertoire, double tap and watch on. So first things first is we're going to make our bulgur wheat, since that takes longest. You can also use couscous for this recipe. So when cooking bulgur wheat, I'm using a 2-to-1 ratio of water to wheat. For this recipe, I'm actually not going to need a lot of bulgur wheat. Just trying to show you that this can go real quick and easy if you're thinking as it of a snack. I put 1 unit of water. I'm going to put half a unit of my bulgur wheat. So this is going to be my bulgur wheat that I'm going to put in here. I'm going to salt my water as well. So this is my salt, pepper, a little bit of garlic powder in this mix. I've put it in my water. I'm just going to dissolve it down. All right, so you see my water hit a nice simmer. I'm going to pour in my bulgur wheat. Just going to kind of shake it a little bit. I'm going to cover it, leave a little bit of gap, and I'm going to reduce my heat to about a 4. In the meantime, I'm going to chop down my onion. I go with lateral cuts first. I leave the root intact. You don't need to do kind of the proper method. You can just chop your onion into pieces. It's going to be going inside of something and fried. For me, I know I get consistently small pieces when I do it this way. So as you guys saw, I did lateral cuts, I did vertical cuts, and then so as you can see, my one mistake so far is usually always have something underneath your cutting board to hold it so it's not sliding around like you saw mine is. If you don't have this rubber mat, which I got at the dollar store, you can get a wet rag, a wet paper towel, a wet rag. Those things work equally as well, and that'll help it from sliding around. Next thing is I'm going to do my herbs. So these are the herbs I happen to have in my fridge. I have parsley, I have dill, I have mint. I'm just going to cut these all up at once. I think traditionally you would use cilantro, parsley, mint. For kibbeh, a Middle Eastern dish, you wouldn't really use dill, but it's what I have. The flavor comes through real nicely. My bulgur wheat, I'm going to give a check. My next move, I'll set up my dry spices. Some ground clove, ground cumin. So something like cumin, if you have allspice, that'd be a great addition here. Any warming spices. This is a good opportunity if you have whole spices to toast them in a cast iron skillet and then grind them down to use for something like this. And here's my salt, pepper, garlic powder mix. The mix that my herbs go into is actually going to have raw garlic as well. So I'm just going to take my garlic and grate it directly into the herb mix. I want the garlic to be distributed evenly. Don't put your fingers at risk. Garlic is great, but it's not that important where you're shaving your fingers because you want to save every last bit. So I'm gonna put in lemon. I happen to have some lemon laying around. Lime juice actually is a traditional recipe here. But just have lemon. It's my kitchen, my rules, right? There's many ways to do this. I'm just using a fork to get out the seeds. And the last thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna crack and scramble an egg. At this point, I'm gonna turn on my skillet. Get that nice and hot. This is my beef from yesterday. What I'm going to do is I'm going to portion it in half. We're going to treat 2 half portions of beef separately. So I'm tasting my bulgur wheat. The moisture is dried out. The taste is out al dente, has a little bite to it. It's what I expect for bulgur wheat. For something like this, you can use vegetable oil, any kind of oil. Since we have such a great ground beef, Wagyu ground beef from Vermont Wagyu, I'm going to use some beef tallow. So I take my beef fat, it's moving quickly, so I'm going to put in some onions. Putting my onions, they're darkening quite quickly, so I'm going to turn my heat down. I'm going to drop my beef. So really I would have a wooden spoon. I recently broke my wooden spoons for the 7 p.m. Essential Workers Clap. I got too excited. So I have this metal spoon. So at this point, I'm gonna drop my dry spices as well, kind of distribute them, try to distribute them evenly. And right now I'm just breaking up my beef. Let it rock for a minute. Alright, at this point I'm going to turn off my heat. I'm going to drain this into a bowl. You could put this on top of a paper towel in the bowl if you want to. Kibbeh is usually made using lean ground beef or other leaner meats like lamb. Heard of it, of camel being used for kibbeh. We have this Wagyu beef that's very nicely marbled and fatty and really high quality, which is great. As a result of our fat content, we're just going to keep an eye with this beef. We'll adjust our bulgar ratio accordingly. Alright, so I have my cleaned out pan. I'm going to fill it up with oil for frying. You can use an air fryer for this. I'm going to start mixing together all my ingredients. First thing I'm going to do is mix my raw beef, my spices, my herbs. I'm then going to mix in my bulgur wheat. The last two things I'm going to mix in is my hot meat and my egg. I'm going to break it up also with my hands. I'm using the rest of my seasoning here. I'm using herbs. Remember, this has my raw garlic inside. At this point I'm going to drop my lemon juice. And then I'm going to drop my bulgur wheat. For a pound of beef, I'm going to use about 2 to 4 ounces of bulgur wheat. I'm just eyeballing it, once again, due to the fat content of my beef. You know, I might use more bulgur wheat than if I was for non-Wagyu beef. So far, we have our mix. In here I have my herbs, my spices, my raw garlic. I have uncooked beef as well as cooked beef in here. And I have some of this bulgur wheat mixed in here. Also have some lemon juice inside. I'm going to use a spoon to continue with the mixing of this. I'm going to be careful. You see how fatty my mix already is. So I'm just using a little bit at a time, and I'm going to eyeball it. My mixture looks and acts a bit wet. I'm going to add some more bulgur wheat. So this is, you know, as you get kind of more comfortable, this is how you can eyeball the situation, play with your ratios. So I have my mixture mixed up. I'm going to confirm my temperature, the temperature of my oil. One thing about taking temperature of oil, make sure your thermometer is not touching the bottom of your pan. When you have a low level of oil like this, it's kind of tough, but it's definitely worth it. I can see my oil's 348, 349, right under my 350 degree target temperature, which is cool with me. My mix was getting kind of hard to handle, so I put it in the freezer, and that helped it out a lot. It helped the fats kind of solidify up. That's kind of a good way to get your kibbeh to be more friendly to your hands. It's not falling apart as much. It's holding its shape. It's supposed to kind of taper off at the ends. You know, I don't do it so well, but it's still edible. You drop it into your oil. Now for the rest of my kibbeh, I'll do it by spoon. Technically called a cannelle. And then, you know, doing something like this is a great way to practice your cannelle if you're into that sort of thing. Shout out to Chickpeas NYC. You know, I was working an event at the Beard House, and she's a culinary director there. And there was, you know, about like 10, 12 of us in a room preparing for a dinner. There was a situation that we needed like great cannelles for a dish. Out of all the chefs in the room, she was the only one that could really pull it off really consistently and have these perfect looking cannelles every single time. So it was a really funny moment when the room stopped to admire Chef Jamie's cannelles. So shout out to you. I'm gonna kind of make sure that I'm turning my pieces over as they're frying. Here we go. Here's a nice color kibbeh. Just with the last part, we're going to set up our little plate. This is some Haitian pikliz I have, which is basically spicy pickled cabbage. It's kind of traditional Haitian spicy pepper condiment. It's been pickled with Scotch bonnet peppers. This one is not that traditional because I use red cabbage, hence my red brine. Some fried kibbeh. And there you have it. Ground beef Wagyu Kibbeh. Ground beef from Vermont Wagyu, served with a spicy Haitian condiment. I took too big of a bite, but you see it's crunchy on the outside and some soft meat on the inside. It's nice and rich because of our great Wagyu ground beef from Vermont Wagyu. It's such a great thing, and it was super quick to make.